Let's hop back across the border into South Australia now and catch up with Kylie, Holland. Kylie, you've been part of a cross-border group looking at problems and trying to help each other and trying to get some sense from government. You must feel like you've gone a huge step backwards in the last week or so.
The last 2 days has been crazy and things have changed from minute to minute. You're literally assisting someone and then something will change and you have to go back and find all of those people that you just told this is going to work and say, no, it's not. It's crazy.
We know that kids' schooling's been affected, people getting their children to medical appointments. We know all about workers and farmers. It's created a lot of chaos, but this week it's all been upended on the basis of a massive lockdown of the whole of South Australia because of a cluster of 22 infections in the northern suburbs of Adelaide, about 500 kilometres away from you.
Correct. And I would wonder if there was a cluster in, say, Naracoorte or Mount Gambier or one of the border towns, would they lock down the entire state? Would they lock down Adelaide if exactly the same circumstances were replicated in one of the border towns?
Point. That is a brilliant point, Kylie. That nails it perfectly. If you had 25 or 50 cases in Mount Gambier, there's no way known Melbourne or Adelaide would be shut down. Do you feel like you're being treated as mugs here?
Oh, absolutely. It's like we're playing a game of piggy in the middle and we're just constantly being hit in the head with the ball. We just don't know from 1 week, 1 minute to the next what's happening. So we had our lockdown that has thankfully been resolved and finishes up on Saturday at midnight. But now we have a hard border with Victoria that we're having to deal with. People are having to take leave or are having to apply for permits that still aren't coming through. And, I mean, farming is time critical. You've spoken to James. I'm sure he covered off on all of that. It's just crazy that we are constantly the collateral damage and we have no cases here. There are no cases on the Victorian side of the border. There are no cases on the South Australian side of the border. So we just do not understand why we are constantly having to figure out what paperwork we need to do. And people are so confused, Chris. They're contacting us, what do I do? Can I do this? Can I do that? And they're just simply not understanding the two different border regimes that are coming into place or that are in place at the moment. Victoria is moving to a permit system after this hard closure in 48 hours. And people are completely confused about that because there's no information. So the Premier made the announcement at a press conference yesterday. There was a media release. The actual direction with the details that people need to be able to make decisions on wasn't released until after at least 11 o'clock last night because I went to bed and it still wasn't out. So people have woken up this morning thinking, right, can I go to work? Can I go and get in my tractor? Can I go and finish my harvest or start my harvest? Can I go and
just a shambles.
Do the shearing?
It's just a shambles,
It's crazy.
And we find today they've made these decisions based on nothing, really. They didn't know what they were doing and they've changed their mind again. You must lack faith in the Chief Medical Officer, Nicola Spurrier, and the Premier, Stephen Marshall.
Look, the medical side of things, I'm not a doctor, I can't comment on that so much, but what I do question is the need to shut down an entire state when it's clearly a cluster that is geographically isolated to a particular region. I would expect that if there was a cluster here in Mount Gambier, that Mount Gambier would be isolated and movement would be restricted in Mount Gambier until the contract tracers could do their job. I would expect that in Adelaide they would do that. If they can bring in a direction that says regional travel is not allowed and they can stop that from happening, then they should just close off Adelaide and leave the rest of the state to go about their business.